show we have. This is a Fox News alert. Welcome to Hannity. Tonight we are following 4 major breaking news stories. But first, before we even start, tonight is a night of vindication. Even the Washington Post is now tonight being forced to admit what we have been telling you for over a year. Also tonight, The Hill's John Solomon reporting the Obama administration gave a visa to a Russian nuclear official even after evidence showed he was involved in bribery and kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering. All these schemes to advance Vladimir Putin's uranium interests in America. Wait till you hear this report. John Solomon and Circa News' Sarah Carter will all be here with the very latest. Also, Victoria Tunsing. Also breaking tonight, the Department of Justice. They're now deliberating whether to allow this FBI informant with all of this evidence to testify before Congress about this corrupt Uranium One deal and a possible new Clinton pay-to-play scheme. This is the same FBI informant that helped uncover the Russian nuclear bribery and kickback plot and reportedly has all the evidence of the Russian money flowing straight to the Clintons. And tonight also, House Republicans, they're finally catching up to us. A year later, they are now launching the investigations we've been calling for into the corrupt Uranium One deal. Thanks to the amazing reporting, investigative work of Sarah Carter, John Solomon, this show, things are starting to move at an accelerated rate. We are now closer to getting to the truth about what is the biggest national security breach and Russia scandal in American history. We've got a huge breaking news night tonight on Hannity. Even the Washington Post is reporting, and Fox News has confirmed Hillary Clinton's campaign, the DNC, they paid for the research that became the fake news anti-Trump dossier. They've been lying to you for a year. Plus, never Trumper senators Bob Corker, Jeff Flake, John McCain, they're lashing out at the president. We'll have a full report on that. These senators seem to be more interested in attacking the president than they are in serving you, the American people, the forgotten men and women in this country. They need to move. Anyway, we got all of that in tonight's important breaking news, opening monologue, and part 2 of our Ivanka interview. All right, we have made more progress in the last 24 hours with new information and breaking news. Tonight, I'm going to go through all of this very, very slowly. The media has been lying to you. They have been entirely wrong for almost a year, and that relates to the real Russia story. You do not want to miss a minute of tonight's program. Tonight we will prove how we've been right all along and ahead of the curve and how wrong they have been. We will lay it all out, all of the ugly details, and there's a ton of new information tonight. We have explosive information on the massive Uranium One scandal that the Obama administration attempted to cover up. We have been telling you for years this was going to be a big deal, and tonight it is. Now, The Hill's John Solomon is out tonight with another absolutely stunning report. Here's the headline. Obama administration granted a visa entry to Russian nuclear executive under FBI investigation for bribery. Now, according to this new report, the Obama administration actually granted a temporary work visa to this top Russian official in 2011. Then they renewed it in 2014, even after there was overwhelming evidence this official was involved in a criminal scheme that involved racketeering, bribery, extortion, money laundering. Also tonight, Fox News is learning that senior Justice Department officials are finally deliberating over allowing the FBI informant to now testify and tell the truth before Congress. This informant is the key player in the latest developments that we have been sharing with you on this Uranium One scandal. And as John Solomon and Sarah Carter have reported, the informant helped uncover a Russian nuclear bribery, as I said, bribery, kickback, extortion, money laundering, criminal enterprise, which began 1 year before the approval of the Uranium One deal, before it was approved. Now, of course, all of this evidence was kept secret from Congress by the Obama administration on purpose. Now, because this eyewitness signed a non-disclosure agreement, that prevented him from telling Congress and the American people the truth. Now, in addition to all of this, The Hill and Circa News are reporting that the same FBI informant also has evidence of Russians trying to influence the Clintons specifically. This is on top of what we already know about the Clintons' role in Uranium One. The Hill's reporting that Bill Clinton tried to get State Department permission, remember, his wife was running this, to meet with a Russian nuclear official while the Uranium One deal was actually being approved by the Obama administration. And we can't forget that just before the deal, what did Bill get? He pocketed $500,000 in a speech from Moscow. That was double his normal speaking fee. And during that meeting, he was advocating for Uranium One, and he sat down with Vladimir Putin. Now, I want to add one other point here, and this is important. You want to talk about a real Russian conspiracy? Listen to this. The bank that was paying Bill Clinton, when you pay attention to this, that bank was connected to Putin. And that bank also had financial interest in Uranium One. And there's more. According to a Hill report published last night after Hillary Clinton became the Secretary of State, Russian spies purposely tried to gain access to Hillary, her top aides, and the former President Bill Clinton. Now, the report notes that one Russian spy who was successful actually got a job with a major Democratic donor and actually was arrested and deported. Now, there's Peter Schweizer's book. Remember Clinton Cash? We were the first to bring that to your attention. It exposed how $145 million in donations poured into the Clinton Foundation while Hillary was Secretary of State, while she was approving the Uranium One deal. Now, this is what people all across this country and all of you corrupt people in the media, you should all be angry about this tonight. Now, because of all of the evidence of wrongdoing earlier today, finally, prayers answered. House Republicans announced that key committees will finally be launching investigations into this corrupt bribery Uranium One kickback deal. Take a look.
We do have a witness who is a confidential informant who wants to talk about his role in this, and we're in contact with the Justice Department to release him from a non-disclosure agreement. If that doesn't work out in timely fashion, then we obviously would be able to subpoena him. You know, on the Oversight Committee, particularly my subcommittee, we're going to be focusing on how the interagency process worked in this.
7 years ago, in fact 7 years ago this month, I raised these objections with the Treasury Secretary, who said they were being fully investigated, and obviously we want to see what happened to that inquiry, what information was brought to their attention, what they knew then, why they acted or didn't act, and put it in context of what's come out since then.
Our job here is to get the facts. We're the legislative branch of government, and we will do just that.
Here's my prediction tonight. People will be going to jail over this. Now, this is something we've been calling for weeks, months, even over a year. The House is also launching an investigation into how the Obama Department of Justice, how the FBI handled Hillary Clinton's email server case. And I've got to say, it's about time, because the evidence of wrongdoing in both of these massive scandals is overwhelming. It's incontrovertible, and it put our security at risk. And as we have been saying for months, Congress has a duty, a moral obligation. We can't have a dual justice system. They must investigate these scandals fully, and they must uncover the truth of what actually happened. How is it possible? How? That they never recognized that giving Vladimir Putin and the Russians 20% of our uranium, the foundational material to nuclear weapons, a hostile actor, is a good idea. And with Uranium One, Congress literally can start by calling on key Obama administration officials, Eric Holder, Rod Rosenstein, and yes, Robert Mueller. I hope you're watching. You need to testify under oath. And let me tell you why. As the Attorney General, Eric Holder, of course, he had oversight over the FBI. He was a member of the government committee that actually approved Uranium One. But yet they had all this evidence of corruption and bribery. He clearly had the information. Then there's now Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Well, he was actually in charge of this FBI investigation into this Russian bribery and money laundering scandal. And finally, Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Back in 2009, he was the FBI director. This is when the Bureau, the FBI, so clearly had this information. He has conflicts of interest. There's no way the American people can trust Robert Mueller to investigate anything Russian-related. To be fair and impartial, it's impossible because of his past role in this. He should resign immediately tonight. Now, also, the House tonight is also going to be investigating the Obama Department of Justice and the FBI's handling of the Clinton email server scandal. all happening tonight. Now, aside from Clinton having top secret, special access program, classified information, mishandled a felony on her server, remember the one stored in the bathroom of a mom and pop shop? The House will be looking into the former FBI director, which they should, James Comey, and it is inexcusable conduct. Now, you may remember he drafted the letter exonerating Hillary Clinton before ever conducting the interviews with the key witnesses, including Hillary Clinton herself. Comey also, he abused his power when he announced he was not recommending charges against Clinton. He never had that authority. And we've got the Attorney General, former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. Remember the tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton days before Comey's decision. And like we've been saying, it's about time. These are all serious issues. All need to be investigated fully, and those involved need to be held accountable. We're also learning tonight that we were right about the GPS fusion dossier. Tonight, even the Washington Post has to finally begin to report what we have been telling you forever. And according to the Washington Post tonight, I love to quote them, Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC, they paid for that phony research that eventually became the dossier. That's the same document that used Russian government-paid sources and made wild and completely untrue and ridiculous accusations about Donald Trump. And remember, the Democrats, media, they were happy to repeat, for example, that Donald Trump was in the Ritz in Moscow and he had hookers urinating in his bed. And James Comey wanted to hire this man and pay him taxpayer dollars. All of this makes the Clinton campaign and the DNC tonight complicit in spreading Russian propaganda and Russian lies about then-candidate Donald Trump. Now, they're spreading this Russian propaganda. They've been lying to you, the American people, using phony Russian sources. And this lie has gone on for over a year. This is real Russia collusion. This is the real Russia story. Robert Mueller, wake up tonight. Now, Fox News has also confirmed the information in the Post article is correct. In other words, we've been right for over a year. And we want to point out another part of the Washington Post article. It reads, quote, Fusion, GPS's research into Trump was funded by an unknown Republican client during the GOP primary. This is before the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign took over. Okay, I want to know, who is that? Was it one of the other candidates? Was it Senator McCain, who reportedly gave it to the FBI? Who's behind this? We need answers. Keep in mind, it was McCain. He said he passed this dossier around. And by the way, we have to wonder if this new information is the reason why the group behind the dossier, Fusion GPS, is trying to stop lawmakers from accessing their bank records. Follow the money. Now, the entire Democratic apparatus, most of the Republican apparatus, and all of the mainstream media, they fell hook, line, and sinker for a Russian disinformation lying campaign to the American people during an election. The Democrats, Hillary Clinton, they all lied to you for over a year. Now, keep in mind, there is a report. James Comey, he tried to pay Christopher Steele, the former British spy who put this whole dossier together. He wanted to give him your money. And tonight, predictably, the new DNC chairman, Tom Perez, he's like, I didn't do this. He's denying he had any personal involvement with the dossier. You're going to hear a lot more of those denials in the days to come. We'll continue to follow that story. Also tonight, very important report, and that is pathetic, weak, gutless, spineless, never-Trumper establishment Republican forces all lashing out against the president today. Now, Senators Bob Corker, we have little snowflake, whiny Jeff Flake, and John McCain all bashing the president. Instead of doing what? Focusing on passing tax reform for the forgotten men and women in poverty on food stamps and out of work in this country. Take a look.
I was one of those that hoped that, he would rise to the occasion as president. And he has not risen to the occasion. It's very evident to me. It's obvious his political model and governing model is to divide. It's a sad place from my perspective for our nation, and I think that the worst of it is going to be just the whole debasing, if you will, of our nation.
We must stop pretending that the degradation of our politics and the conduct of some in our executive branch are normal. Reckless, outrageous, and undignified behavior has become excused and countenanced as telling it like it is. The notion that we should say or do nothing in the face of such mercurial behavior is ahistoric and I believe profoundly misguided. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by a president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public.
When the Flake service to this country in this Senate is reviewed, it will be one of honor, of brilliance, and patriotism and love of country.
Here's a simple truth. All three of these guys, they're inept, they're ineffective, they have completely failed to deliver on the promises that they made to their constituents and you, the American people, for years. These guys have accomplished nothing. And others like Ben Sasse, too. And you know what? All they're doing here is standing in the way of enacting an agenda to help move the country forward, what the people voted for last November. And they're trying to be martyrs in the process. You want to be martyrs? You guys go right ahead. Here's my answer to all of you tonight. Good riddance, happy trails. Don't let the door hit you on the way out of town. Now, before his little stunt on the Senate floor, Senator Flake announced he wasn't going to be running for re-election in 2018. Now, here's part of the truth here. Flake is now trying to say his decision is all about President Trump. But here's the truth, because he lied today. At least he's not choosing to run again because back in August, Flake had an 18% approval rating among voters in Arizona. And another poll showed that he was losing to his chief Republican primary challenger, Dr. Kelly Ward, who would have crushed Flake in a primary had he had the courage to run. And then you got Bob Corker. He's done nothing but attack the president now for weeks. Bob Corker, he's stepping aside. He's not running again because he would have lost in Tennessee. So I have a suggestion for all you never Trumper senators that are headed for the exits, people like Corker and Flake. You know what? Guess what? You guys, take your other colleagues with you. Mitch McConnell, goodbye. Ben Sasse, goodbye. John Cornyn, goodbye. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins. Either get the job done that you promised the American people, advance the president's agenda. What are the conservative values that the president is advocating for that you're unwilling to support? Many of you can retire and we'll all be happier. Now, the difference here between President Trump and these senators that I just listed is the president is a fighter. He's fighting for what he believes in. I like somebody fighting for the American people. And he's also somebody that is keeping his word, his promises. The Senate has done next to nothing to help the president keep his promises or help the American people or help the forgotten men in poverty on food stamps and out of work. Look at these statistics. The Senate has confirmed in about a year, since January, only 175 of President Trump's civilian nominees. Guess what? 229 have yet to be confirmed. How many vacations do these guys take? And during a similar time frame, President Obama had 359 nominees confirmed, over twice as much. And listen to this. Through September of this year, the House of Representatives, and I have disagreements with them at times, at least they do their job. They have passed 308 bills that originated in that chamber, and of those 308 bills that the House of Representatives passed, the Senate has passed 34. Beyond an embarrassment, beyond a disgrace, these guys are the definition of failure, the poster children of failure. Now, Senate Republicans are no longer serving the American people. So you know what, Senator Flake? Bye. You know what, Senator Corker? See you later. It's time for accountability. It's time to drain the swamp. If Republicans don't back this agenda, a tax reform, repealing and replacing, they need to get out of the way or resign or retire or do something. Because you know what? The only reason these people are now saying they're not running is because they can't win. And for all you never-Trumpers who are watching tonight, take a look at the side of your screen. They happen to be Donald Trump's accomplishments. Let's see. Pretty long list. Real, tangible accomplishments, promises made, promises kept. So what have you never-Trumpers done in this period of time? Have you helped the millions of forgotten men and women in this country that are suffering? Well, the answers are simple. You've done nothing other than help the Democrats obstruct the president at every single turn. And you know what? Enough's enough. We're going to have a lot more on all this breaking news, and I promise you, you don't want to miss a minute of any of this. When we come back, the heroes, investigative reporters who have been exposing the truth and standing alone and digging hard, John Solomon, Sarah Carter, plus Victoria Tunsi, She is the attorney for that FBI informant who was at the center of exposing this Uranium One scandal. We've got all of that. Sebastian Gorka, part 2 of our interview with Ivanka, and much more. Stay with us. Welcome back to Hannity. So as we mentioned in our opening monologue tonight, House Republicans finally are opening investigations into this very corrupt Uranium One deal that compromised all of our national security, involving the Obama administration and, of course, the Clintons. Also tonight, the Department of Justice finally is considering whether to lift the gag order on the FBI informant at the center of the scandal. Here with the reaction are people that deserve a lot of credit for digging deep. The Hill's John Solomon, Circa News' Sarah Carter, and an attorney I'd never want to go up against, Victoria Tunsing, who is representing the FBI informant. Victoria, I want to start with you. Last night, you actually said that your client, this informant, the guy that has evidence, emails, documents, tape recordings that prove bribery, extortion, money laundering, etc., he has details of the exact plans to bribe the Clintons. It was all by design?
Not going into detail, you know that, Sean, but he will give an overview and specific conversations that he had with Russians in what they were thinking about the money that they were spending. Let me just be that general. And it involves the Clintons.
Okay. Listen, I have too much respect for you over the years to push you harder on this. Let me start with a broader question for Sarah and John. In terms of the degree of scandal, because, Sarah, you know this informant. You've spoken to them. You know what he has. How bad is this going to get for the people that we're mentioning that are involved in this?
Oh, let me clarify. I do know the informant. I don't know everything that he has because some of it's considered classified, Sean, and
Understood.
I'm not privy to that classified information. And he is bound by the non-disclosure agreement. But I think as the investigation moves forward with the House Intelligence Committee, with the Oversight Committee, with the Judiciary, and as soon as the Department of Justice, hopefully lifts his non-disclosure agreement and protects him, I think that this will lead to an investigation that will expose and finally, for once, tell the American people and Congress what actually happened with the Uranium One deal, how far the Russians were willing to go, and the connections those Russians made in the United States. And that is going to be imperative. And there is so much there. It's like we've unraveled a thread, right? And it just doesn't stop unraveling. So I think that the momentum needs to be kept up, Sean. People need to continue to look into this. We need to continue the investigation, and we need to see where it leads, wherever it leads. But this is probably one of the most significant stories that we've told in a long time.
John Solomon, I'll ask you, because the FBI knew in 2009 and 2010, before this Uranium One deal was done, they had evidence, a lot of it, that including tapes and emails and documents and an FBI informant. They knew it all. And they still approved this deal, knowing that all this is going on because Vladimir Putin and a hostile actor, we've been lectured about Russia for a year, that they wanted to get the market on American uranium, and the sad part is they succeeded.
So let's, if you let me do a little reporting on your show here. So just a little bit ago, before we came on here, Victoria and I talked, and she was able to confirm for me that her client has information that Director Mueller and President Obama and other officials were briefed on this investigation in real time as it was going on. That's the first time we've heard that. Maybe she can answer a little bit more on the show about that.
Victoria?
Well, my client was told this information. Now, whether the Bureau was puffing, I don't think so, because they were very specific. They said that the briefing made it into President Obama's daily briefing papers. So I don't think they made that up.
So let me see if I got this straight. So yeah. Mueller, Rosenstein, maybe even Comey at the time, and the President of the United States, certainly Eric Holder was the head of the DOJ, they all knew that they had all this evidence that the Russians had infiltrated with the purpose of a criminal enterprise to corner the market on uranium, the foundational material of nuclear weapons. Anyone?
That is correct.
Sarah, you're shaking your head yes? That's possible? And Robert Mueller's now investigating anything involved with Russia? How is that possible?
You know, Sean, I think this cries out for a special counsel. I just don't see how this can continue on. Congressional committees are fine, but this really this is a criminal investigation, and Jeff Sessions isn't going to ever feel comfortable coordinating that. And Rod Rosenstein is recused because he was the U.S. attorney.
So then who appoints a special counsel?
Well, no, Jeff Sessions can appoint the special counsel. Yeah. He's not recused. He's just not going to be comfortable doing it. So he ought to get somebody in here and get this off their hands.
Sarah?
I agree with Victoria. I think that there's only so far that many of us can go, particularly with this type of investigation, especially, Sean, when it goes into territory that's classified. But I think that a special counsel can do that. They can look into this. Also, the House Intelligence Committee can look into a lot of these issues. Oversight can take a look. Senator Grassley's done tremendous as well as far as asking the right questions and moving forward. But I think a special counsel, as Victoria suggested, is something that I've been hearing from sources, something that they hope Attorney General Jeff Sessions moves forward with.
And John, let's go into the new information that now that the investigation, then they allowed the visas to an individual that they know was involved in this. How could that happen?
Yeah, the Maine immigration law says that you may not grant a visa to someone that you know is engaged in criminal conduct, and specifically there's a section that says if you know they're involved in money laundering. Well, we know the Russian nuclear official that was eventually indicted was involved in money laundering. That was a kickback and money laundering scheme. The Obama administration in 2011 and then again in 2014, according to court records, not according to anonymous sources, court records, they gave this guy 2 visas even though they knew he was involved in a criminal conspiracy. And I think that that's why these questions are surfacing. There's either a breakdown in the system or a knowing and willful decision to let these people into our country.
And to let people know how hard, Sarah, you've been working, and John, you've been working, you guys have known this evidence has existed for over a year, correct? Or you suspected it existed. Let's say it in a nice way.
About 4 months, 5 months for me personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Right about the same time. A little bit longer, but yes.
DNC and the Russian dossier, Sarah. I'm really trying to understand this, too. Now we have confirmation that the DNC and Hillary Clinton's lawyer paid. They've lied to us for a year. Outright lied to us.
Well, they didn't want to admit it, right? Nobody wanted this information to be revealed. And now we find out April 2016, the DNC and the Clinton campaign were funding the dossier. But, Sean, I was talking to sources that deal with Russian intelligence. This is U.S. intelligence, U.S. sources that deal with the Russians often. The minute Christopher Steele stepped into Russia to start talking to former FSB, KGB, former KGB agents, and started digging into President Trump, they knew immediately who was funding it, and they used it for disinformation. So I think that what's interesting here is that actually the Democrats, maybe unknowingly, were actually funding a disinformation campaign by the Russians. That's astonishing.
Disinformation campaign, propaganda campaign, and let's call it what it is. That means lying. And
that's
lying
right.
And paying Russians for phony stories and everything else. Look, I can't. Both of you have come under a lot of fire for your reporting, and I think tonight, in many ways, is only the beginning of a vindication that I've been predicting is coming. And Victoria, great job. I'm glad that your client picked the right person. I've known you for many years. You're tough. I wouldn't want to go against you in a courtroom. We'll have you guys back on tomorrow night. Thank you all for being with us, and we really appreciate it. We have a lot more to come tonight, a lot more breaking news. Sebastian Gorka, Greg Jarrett, they will react to these explosive new details about Uranium One and the Russian dossier. And on top of that, we'll have part 2 of our interview, the personal side of Ivanka Trump. Straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. We are following major breaking news tonight. The Washington Post first reporting tonight, Fox News confirming the Clinton and the DNC. They, after lying for a year, helped finance the research for that fake news anti-Trump dossier. And also breaking minutes ago, Hillary Clinton's former spokesman, Brian Fallon. They're like racing. Perez is the first. I regret I didn't know about Christopher Steele's hiring pre-election. If I had, I would have volunteered to go to Europe and try to help him. Oh, really? Here with the reaction is the author of Defeating Jihad, the Make America Great Again coalition chief strategist, former deputy assistant to the president, Sebastian Gorka, Fox News legal analyst, Greg Jarrett. What I always love about you is you come with research on everything. You start where you want. Uranium One, the dossier.
The confidential informant cannot be gagged. The U.S. Supreme Court in a...
But he's been gagged. He has a non-disclosure.
But it does not prevent him from speaking to Congress. The U.S. Supreme Court said so. McGrain versus Doherty is the case. You cannot gag a witness when Congress wants to talk to that witness. This is why I love
Greg Jarrett, for all of you at home. He always knows his stuff. All right, keep going.
All right, the Clinton dossier. What strikes me is that Christopher Steele went to Moscow and talked to the Kremlin and gathered false evidence.
He paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The victim here is the President of the United States now, and Hillary Clinton's campaign in the DNC was apparently paying for this.
For propaganda, for lies, for disinformation from the Russians during the campaign. Oh, Robert Mueller, are you awake tonight?
If there's collusion, it's Hillary-Russia collusion, not Trump-Russia collusion.
You know, I've been predicting this, Dr. Gorka, this massive boomerang for a long time. I've known that a lot of this evidence was out there and that it was all coming. And I've been telling my audience, it's coming, it's coming. Now the floodgates are opening, if you will.
It's like the last scene from that great Tom Clancy movie, The Hunt for Red October, where the bad submarine commander launches the torpedo and it comes back and it sinks his own vessel. That's what the Russian collusion story has done for the DNC and for Hillary. Let's stop using the word collusion, because the evidence we now have is about subversion. It's about sabotaging the political process, and it's about propaganda. In the Cold War, the Soviet Union used what was called active measures to undermine our democracy. This is the Democrat Party, this is the Hillary campaign using active measures to undermine Donald Trump and to undermine the democratic process in America. It is a shocking story.
And what really stinks here is Mueller, Rosenstein, Andrew Weissman, and James Comey appear to have covered it all up, the Uranium One deal racketeering scheme of the Russians, and money paid to Hillary Clinton, and a sleeper agent getting close to Clinton. They never notified Congress. They have a legal duty to notify Congress. Congress would have stopped the sale of the asset.
Why would you ever, especially in light of everything the media and Democrats have been saying about hostile actor Vladimir Putin, who in their right mind would give Vladimir Putin 20% of America's uranium and then all the money that flowed back? It stunk to high heaven from day one. Now we just have the evidence.
There are two things you never sell to the Russians: plutonium and uranium, with which you make nuclear weapons. They have 1,200 strategic nuclear weapons aimed at us right this minute. And we're supplying them the nuclear material.
They all signed off on it. And then all this money flowed back to them, Dr. Gorka.
That's the big part of the story. So the cover-up afterwards, the destruction of evidence, the gag order, that's bad in and of itself. But the fact is, these people who are supposed to be investigating this administration that has done nothing wrong, they were complicit. Hillary Clinton approved this deal. They are making a big deal about $100,000 worth of Facebook ads by Russia, half of which occurred after the election. This isn't $100,000 worth of ads. This is stuff to make nuclear weapons being given to Vladimir Putin. Can we just ingest the enormity of what we're talking about now? This is a massive scandal.
I have said, and I stand by this tonight, they sold out America's national security.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And there's so much more to come. Let's talk about potential crimes.
Jeff Sessions, who recused himself, you may recall, in his confirmation hearing from anything related to Hillary Clinton, he said it not once, not twice, 3 times, can still appoint a special counsel to investigate Hillary Clinton over Uranium One, her interference on behalf of UBS, with the IRS and received an enormous amount of money to Bill Clinton and their foundation, and arms sales. All of that can be the subject of the special counsel investigation. And while you're at it, let's throw in the email case, because to me as a lawyer, it is a clear case of the violation
mishandling
of the Espionage
felony,
Act.
Destroying evidence, felony, obstruction of justice, deleting, breaking up,
it would be 110 counts based on 110 classified documents.
I want to go back, Dr. Gorka, Bill Clinton's trip. He wanted to ask his own wife's State Department to approve meetings with Russian nuclear officials. Okay, that's insane. Gets double his speaking fee. He is being paid by a bank that has a Renaissance, that has a financial interest in Uranium One. Then he does meet with Vladimir Putin, and his wife signs off on the deal, and then the $145 million kickback. Now, what other evidence do you need to know that they were not putting the security of this country as their first priority?
You don't need it. Look, 108 emails of TSSCI, highest level SAP classification on a private homebrew server. We expect this from the Clintons. They're the most corrupt political clan in modern American history. But the issue is how the establishment dealt with it under the Obama administration. How somebody who was a suspect in that investigation was allowed to be the counsel to Hillary Clinton. How the BlackBerries were destroyed, and how the laptops that the FBI had were also destroyed by the federal government. That's a banana republic. We have to have Mueller. Mueller has to be fired, and right now AG Sessions has to have a national security special prosecutor.
Listen, Attorney General needs to wake up now. This is not a game anymore. Our security. Holder, Clinton, Mueller, Rosenstein, they all knew in 2009.
Don't forget
and they
McCain.
approved the deal, Greg.
And Holder actually sat on the CFIUS committee, if you can believe that.
He was one of the ones that signed off, one of the 9.
Yeah, it was a unanimous decision. Hillary Clinton presides over it.
All right, guys, we'll have you guys back tomorrow, too. We're just going to continue this investigation. We're not going to start. When we come back, part 2, our exclusive interview with the first daughter, Ivanka Trump. She talks about how she responds to the vicious attacks from the left. As we continue on this breaking news night tonight on Hannity. Now, yesterday I sat down with one of the first daughters and advisor to the president, Ivanka Trump, for an exclusive interview. I did ask Ivanka how she felt about the mainstream media and their vicious, unprecedented attacks on her, her father, the entire Trump family. Take a look. It was interesting. Jimmy Carter even said that he never witnessed any president take as much heat as your dad. But also the family. I mean, you've been attacked. Melania has been attacked. Your little brother's been attacked. Don and Eric, I don't care about them. They kind of deserve
really
it.
Tough.
No,
Yeah.
I'm teasing. But they can handle themselves.
Yeah.
Certain unfairness.
They give it out as well.
Oh, yeah, well, Don in particular, I think does.
They punch back.
Yeah. Certain of it is just personal and mean. How do you deal with that? Is that hard?
You feel it. I'd be disingenuous if I didn't say it didn't affect me. I think, though, at the end of the day, the real people suffering in this country are not me and my family. We can take it. It's the millions of Americans we saw across this country who are addicted to opioids or have lost a child to opioid abuse, who have lost their jobs because their industry can no longer be competitive. I mean, there are people who are really suffering. And so, if we have to take a few body blows in advocating for those men and women, I think everyone in my family and everyone in this administration is honored to do it.
That's a great answer. Believe it or not, in this little business I'm in, I take a few hits too, more than my fair share. I want to ask you about this, and this was interesting. I thought this was a very important point. One of my biggest complaints about people in D.C. is they're not there to serve. They don't work hard enough for the people that elected them or put them there. Or if you work in the house that your dad now lives in, to me, I think that's one of the great honors in life, that you have the opportunity.
I always tell my father, the day I don't get chills walking into the White House is the day I leave. Every day. Every day. There's a sense of awe as to what has transpired and what has been accomplished in those halls, and you should always remember it, and she should always feel it, and you should always deeply respect it. But yeah, no, Washington is a complicated place.
Blood sport.
You know, I care a lot about ideas. I care much less, and this maybe makes me a pragmatist, but I care less about who came up with the idea, who originated the idea, and more about the idea itself, and good ideas, and ideas that support this country and its citizens. So, you know, it's a complicated city. I was joking earlier today that you leave Washington and you feel rejuvenated. So it's nice to be here in
Do you go hunting with your
Pennsylvania.
brothers?
I don't go hunting with my brothers, although, I'm not a good hunter at all.
You're not? Have you tried?
They say I have a good shot.
They do.
Or they at least tell me I do.
That'd be nice, you think?
It's beginner's luck.
You said something the other day, and I thought this should be the attitude of anybody that serves in any administration, that it's a team, that it's your father that got elected,
yes,
and that it's his agenda, and we're there to serve him 100%. So he can serve people.
100%. I mean, he was elected by the American people to the privilege of serving this great country. I was not. I am there to support the agenda in areas that I feel that I can add value and that I'm passionate about and where we're aligned. Doesn't mean I'm not my own person, that I don't share my opinion, but I'm also cognizant that he's given me the privilege to think about how I can remove barriers, particularly when I think about women entrepreneurs, women in the workforce, supporting the American family, job creation. These are things I'm deeply passionate about: workforce development, skills training. So I feel blessed. And I feel very lucky he's given me the opportunity to do that. But, you know, people who make it about themselves and their own agenda, you know, there's a lot of opportunism in Washington. It's everyone is in service of the president. And look, as an American, I think we all have to be lending our voice to the discussions that matter in this country. We all have to want to have a seat at the table in areas where we agree. You can always find areas of difference. That's easy. But in areas of agreement, as an American, I feel like it's my duty to see if I can be helpful and serve.
Wish more people had that attitude to serve. Important announcement next.